That yogurt you just bought, the one that proudly says probiotic on the label, the one you paid extra for because it promises gut health, there's a good chance it's lying to you. Not all of it, not every brand, but enough that you need to know what you're really putting in your body. We're about to show you exactly how the yogurt industry is gaming the system, which products are actually worth your money, and the one thing on the label that tells you everything you need to know. Let me tell you about Bifidus regularis. Sounds scientific, right? Like something a lab technician would handle with gloves and tweezers? That's exactly what they want you to think. Because Bifidus regularis isn't a recognized scientific species name. It's a marketing or trademark term invented to make you believe one yogurt brand is somehow superior to all the others. The actual bacteria, it's called Bifidobacterium animalis subspecies lactis, strain DN173010, also known in scientific literature as CNCMI 2494. But that doesn't exactly roll off the tongue in a commercial, does it? So they wrapped it up in scientific-sounding packaging and sold it to millions of people. And here's the kicker. The company agreed to a $35 million settlement in the U.S. in 2010 over claims that the product improved digestion without admitting wrongdoing. This isn't just about one company playing word games. This is about an entire industry that's built on confusion. Walk into any grocery store and count how many yogurt containers scream probiotic at you. Greek yogurt with probiotics, low-fat yogurt with live cultures, organic yogurt with billions of active bacteria. They all sound healthy. They all promise gut benefits. But here's what they're not telling you. Many of them don't meet the strict scientific definition of a probiotic. A real probiotic, according to the International Scientific Association for Probiotics and Prebiotics, ISAPP, needs three things. First, it needs to contain specific identified strains of bacteria, not just bacteria in general. Second, those bacteria need to be present in adequate amounts at the time of consumption, often measured in billions. Third, and this is crucial, those specific strains must be supported by human clinical evidence showing a health benefit. Most yogurts fail at least one of these checkpoints, especially when it comes to strain identification or documented clinical benefits for the product as sold. Here's where it gets really interesting. To make yogurt, you need to add live bacterial cultures to milk. Every yogurt starts with living bacteria. That's literally what turns milk into yogurt. But what happens after fermentation? That's the secret many brands don't want you to know. Some yogurt manufacturers heat treat their product after the fermentation process. They're literally heating the yogurt again after the bacteria have done their job. Why? Because it extends shelf life dramatically. Dead bacteria don't multiply, don't change the flavor, and don't eventually turn the product sour. From a business standpoint, it's efficient. From a health standpoint, you're often buying yogurt without live cultures, even though it looks and tastes the same. When yogurt gets heated above roughly 130 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, many beneficial bacteria start dying off. By the time it reaches typical pasteurization temperatures, most live cultures are effectively destroyed. The yogurt still looks the same, still tastes the same, still has that creamy texture, but the living organisms that were supposed to benefit your gut, no longer alive. The FDA requires that yogurt, which has been heat treated after culturing and no longer contains live bacteria, must disclose this on the label, typically using language such as does not contain live and active cultures. That's the phrase you're looking for. If you see it, you're buying yogurt without live cultures, often at probiotic prices. But here's the problem. Not every heat-treated yogurt clearly displays this message prominently. Some brands bury it in small print. Others use clever package designs where the statement gets lost among other claims about calcium, protein, and vitamins. You have to actively hunt for it, and most shoppers don't. A study published in the Journal of the American College of Gastroenterology tested 26 commercially available probiotic foods. Want to know what they found? Only a small number contained bifidobacterium in concentrations high enough to potentially provide measurable benefits. That's less than 20%. The other products were making claims their formulations did not consistently support. Even worse, one of the products they tested contained Bacillus cereus, which under certain conditions can be pathogenic and is associated with foodborne illness. That's not just ineffective, it raises legitimate safety concerns. Let me break down something most people don't understand about probiotics. Not all bacteria are created equal. Even within the same species, different strains can do completely different things. It's like how all dogs are dogs, but you wouldn't expect a Chihuahua and a German Shepherd to have the same capabilities. Most yogurt labels will list something vague like contains lactobacillus or made with bifidobacterium. That tells you almost nothing. The real question is, which strain? Because Lactobacillus acidophilus NCFM has been studied extensively and shown potential benefits. But Lactobacillus acidophilus strain XYZ that some manufacturer cultured in their facility, that might do absolutely nothing. This is where companies get sneaky. They know consumers have heard about probiotics being good for gut health. They know words like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium sound impressive. So they add bacteria to their yogurt, print those scientific names on the label in bold letters, and let you assume you're getting something beneficial. But unless that specific strain has been tested in human clinical trials and shown to survive digestion and provide a measurable health benefit, its effects are uncertain at best. And here's the brutal truth. The majority of bacterial strains used in commercial yogurt products have not been individually evaluated in rigorous clinical trials for probiotic benefits. Take the standard yogurt cultures required by FDA regulations. Lactobacillus, Delbrueckii subspecies, Bulgaricus, and Streptococcus thermophilus. These bacteria are required for a product to be labeled as yogurt because they're the cultures that actually turn milk into yogurt. But they weren't selected for probiotic benefits. They were chosen because they're efficient at fermenting milk. While some may survive digestion in small amounts, they are not generally considered robust probiotic strains. Some brands do add legitimate probiotic strains on top of the standard cultures. Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG, for example, is one of the most extensively studied probiotic strains in the world. Bifidobacterium animalis subspecies. Lactus BB12 is another strain with substantial research behind it. When you see these specific strain names on a label, you're more likely to be getting something supported by evidence. But even then, there's one more obstacle: dose. Before we continue, if this video is opening your eyes to what's really in your yogurt, hit that like button. It helps other people discover this information. Drop a comment below. What shocked you more, the fake strain names or the heat treatment? And subscribe because we're going to keep uncovering the truth about what's really in your food. Here's a question nobody asks at the grocery store. How many live bacteria are actually in this container of yogurt? There is no FDA-defined probiotic standard, but under industry standards commonly used in the US, yogurt that claims to contain live and active cultures is generally expected to contain at least 100 million colony-forming units per gram at the time of manufacture. That's 10 to the 7th power, if you want to get technical, but notice that phrase, at manufacture. Not at the store, not when you buy it, not when you eat it, at manufacture. Bacteria are living organisms. They die over time. The rate of loss varies widely depending on storage temperature, formulation, and strain, but bacterial counts do decline during storage. Manufacturers are expected to have a reasonable expectation that the product will still contain meaningful levels of live cultures through the end of its shelf life, often cited as around 10 million CFUs per gram. That's 1/10 of the starting amount, which means manufacturers are effectively accounting for substantial bacterial loss before the yogurt is consumed. Now compare that to a legitimate probiotic supplement. Quality supplements will guarantee their CFU count through the expiration date, not just at manufacture. They'll often overfill their products, starting with billions more bacteria than the label claims, specifically to account for die-off during storage. But yogurt manufacturers don't have to do that. They can start near the minimum level, allow significant bacterial decline during shipping and storage, and still legally claim their product contains live cultures as long as it meets labeling and disclosure expectations. Want to know the recommended therapeutic dose for probiotics according to clinical guidance summarized by organizations such as the American Academy of Family Physicians? Effective doses in studies often range from several billion to tens of billions of CFUS per day, depending on the strain and condition being treated. Most yogurt containers, they typically deliver far less than that, especially once storage time and bacterial loss are factored in. Let's talk about what happens when you buy yogurt specifically for probiotics. You walk past the regular yogurt, which might be $2 for a large container. You choose the probiotic yogurt instead, which costs $4 or $5. Double the price, sometimes more. What are you getting for that extra money? In many cases, you're paying for marketing, packaging with the word probiotic prominently displayed in bold letters, claims about digestive health, maybe a trademarked strain name that sounds impressive. But the actual difference in beneficial bacteria between that expensive probiotic yogurt and regular yogurt? Often small, inconsistent, or dependent on the specific product and strain. A yogurt study comparing different brands found something interesting. Some lower cost or store brand yogurts contained comparable numbers of viable bacteria to more expensive, heavily marketed brands. The difference often wasn't in what was inside the container. It was in how aggressively the expensive brands marketed their probiotic content. And let's not forget the sugar issue. Many probiotic yogurts are high in added sugars, often to mask the tangy flavor of fermentation. 15 to 20 grams of sugar per serving is not uncommon depending on the product. That's about 4 to 5 teaspoons of sugar. Yes, you're getting some bacteria, but you're also getting a sugar load comparable to many desserts. This creates a situation where people think they're making a healthy choice when they're actually consuming a product that can be nutritionally similar to a sweet snack. The probiotic label becomes permission to eat what is essentially sweetened, flavored yogurt, rather than a clearly health-focused food. So how do you navigate this mess and find yogurt that actually contains meaningful amounts of living beneficial bacteria? Here's your checklist. First, look for the phrase live and active cultures on the label. But don't stop there. Keep reading. Make sure there's no statement saying does not contain live and active cultures anywhere on the package. While labeling practices vary by country and product type, heat-treated yogurts that no longer contain live cultures are typically required to disclose this, so it's important to verify which statement applies to the product you're buying. Second, check if the yogurt lists specific strain names, not just species names. Contains Lactobacillus acidophilus is too vague. Contains Lactobacillus acidophilus NCFM tells you exactly which strain you're getting. Look for strain designations with letters and numbers. Those are the ones that have been cataloged and studied. Third, look for a CFU count. Colony-forming units tell you how many living bacteria are intended to be in the product. Yogurts that are serious about probiotics often display counts in the billions. If the label doesn't mention CFU counts at all, it may indicate that probiotic potency is not a primary focus of the product. Fourth, check the sugar content. If your probiotic yogurt has more than 10 grams of added sugar per serving, you might be better off eating plain yogurt and adding your own fruit, or using a probiotic supplement if appropriate. High added sugar intake is associated with poorer overall gut health, which may undermine the potential benefits of probiotics. Fifth, pay attention to storage. Probiotics are living organisms that need proper handling. If the yogurt isn't refrigerated properly at the store, if it's been sitting outside a cold case, or if it's close to its expiration date, those factors can reduce the number of viable bacteria. Buy yogurt from a well-maintained refrigerated section and consume it well before the expiration date. But here's the thing that nobody in the yogurt industry wants to admit. Even the best probiotic yogurt may not deliver therapeutic doses. If you're trying to meaningfully impact your gut microbiome for a specific health reason, more concentrated and targeted probiotic sources than yogurt alone are often required. Depending on the strain and goal. Here's some honesty you won't hear in yogurt commercials. The research on yogurt as a probiotic is mixed. Some studies show modest benefits for specific conditions and specific strains. Others show no significant effect. A lot depends on which bacteria strains are present, in what quantities, and what health issue you're trying to address. For example, Studies on Bifidobacterium, Anomalous subspecies lactis, have shown mixed results for constipation. Some trials show improvement. Others show no difference from placebo. When scientists dig into the data, they find that different strains within the same species can produce different effects, and outcomes often depend on dose and study design. The gut microbiome is staggeringly complex. You have trillions of bacteria from hundreds of different species living in your intestines. They interact with each other, with your food, and with your immune system in ways we're only beginning to understand. The idea that eating a few billion bacteria from 2 or 3 strains in yogurt will dramatically and predictably transform gut health is likely overly simplistic. That doesn't mean yogurt is bad for you. Regular yogurt is actually a nutritious food. It's high in protein, rich in calcium, and contains important vitamins and minerals. The fermentation process makes it easier to digest than regular milk, which is why people with lactose intolerance can often tolerate yogurt better than milk. But buying expensive yogurt specifically for probiotic benefits, that's where the marketing has often gotten ahead of the science. You're probably better off eating plain, unsweetened yogurt because you enjoy it and it fits your nutritional needs, rather than spending extra money on probiotic claims that may or may not deliver meaningful benefits. If you're seriously interested in using probiotics to address a health condition, whether that's digestive issues, immune support, or something else, talk to a healthcare provider about targeted probiotic supplements. These can provide higher and more precise doses of specific strains that have been clinically studied, are often formulated to survive digestion, and are not packaged with large amounts of added sugar. Here's what to remember next time you're in the yogurt aisle. The yogurt industry won't change unless consumers demand transparency. As long as vague language and clever marketing work, companies will keep using them. Reading labels carefully is the only real defense. If this changed how you think about yogurt, share it with someone buying probiotic brands. Like, subscribe and comment on what surprised you most. We're here to help you make informed choices about your food, not scare you away from it. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and read the label.